The other thing I find interesting with the whole talk about square meterage rates is people think that once they've got that square meterage rate in their mind, that they can then go and make their house smaller to make it cheaper, but it's not the case. Like, it's normally the exact opposite. The smaller the house, the dearer the square meterage.
Yep.
Versus a larger house and it stretches out because same amount of volume, or similar practice, not as much labor and not as much materials, versus a condensed area that's got the same amount of, labor content, and stuff like that, and maybe a little bit less materials, but the admin side of things is very similar. The corners are very similar and the ins and outs and all that.
Thinking about building or renovating? Or maybe you are already knee-deep in a project now. Are you feeling unsure of which steps to take and if you are making the right calls? You're not alone. Welcome to Builders Beyond Borders, the podcast where experienced Aussie builders share real stories, insider tips, and practical advice so you can build with confidence, avoid costly mistakes, and actually enjoy the journey. Let's dive in.
Hi guys, and welcome to another Builders Beyond Borders podcast. Today we've got Hugh from New Realm Homes from the Melbourne suburbs. We've got Matt from Matt Old Builder at Warrnambool, and myself, Dean, and Shannon from DJH Builders in the north of Tassie. Today's topic, we're going to delve into why square metre rates, building metre rates can't be relied upon. Us as builders, we see it bandied about occasionally. It is not, in my opinion, it's not a good way to produce estimates from. They are, in some aspects, helpful for a ballpark figure for someone who is just starting out with a idea or a project. It could be useful. But Hugh, I know you've had a few conversations with people, and Matt, for this topic. Tell us your experience.
Oh, look, I think over the years it's been a fun sort of experience. I mean, look, when it comes to it, I think the real sort of crux of the issue with square meter rates and that sort of thing, it started from something that was, I guess you could say, introduced when sort of building contracts were introduced in the sense of having fixed price contracts, and even though fixed price contracts, it's just a loose fitting term for all that sort of thing. So everybody could turn around and say, hey, look, well, we've got a price for this particular type of home. Now, this was on a type of home that was, say, a volume builder and mass produced home. So the square meter rate could really be relied upon for the size of the home, and they could produce accurate costings because they'd built so many of them. They knew the costs inside and out, and they could go, okay, we know that to do X, Y, and Z on that type of house, that finish of house, we're going to be fitting into this range, which was great to be able to do sort of 20, 30, 40 years ago. But how things have changed. Now we're at that point where having square meter rates for projects, because yes, if you look at still a volume builder's sort of range of homes, there's still that aspect of, yes, we can give you a square meter rate, but there's still other things that are going to get sort of excluded from that square meter rate as well. So when it comes to it, I guess the story that we're sort of leaning towards at the moment is that while we can work off a square meter rate, is how many exclusions and how many things are actually withdrawn from that square meter rate to be accurate these days. And this is where, like, I think we all get asked the question, and we get clients or leads and that sort of thing, or people off the side of the street that are just like, oh, you're a builder. Oh, if I had this type of house, what will it cost me to do that? Oh, I hate to say it, but how long is a piece of string?
Yeah.
Even those are even, the volume build homes. I was just thinking about it when you mentioned volume build. I don't reckon I've seen a ad in the last 12 months that would actually say this much per square meter. Whereas years ago, they were all about, now they do, we can do this for, and they'll give you a very unrealistic,
you just see a streetscape, like it's just a
three bed home for 329 or whatever it is, but there's no dot points to tell you what it is. But yeah, as soon as Hugh said that, I was like, geez, I don't reckon I've seen a volume build like a Metricon or a JG King or anyone like that actually advertise this amount for this square meter rate. So
Yeah.
that's probably a good thing for us too, sort of making it not as in people's faces.
Yeah.
So hopefully it becomes a topic of non-conversation.
Yeah, and they
in
don't have expectation that you're gonna do it for X amount of $1,000 per square meter, and when they to you and they've seen it ad on TV, on the radio or whatever, to compare you to a volume builder as well.
Yeah.
Interesting point, Hugh, with the, 10, 20, 30 years ago. I think we had seen it around about the pandemic because people were still using that metric for estimates, even after the fact, if they priced a job and then they worked it out per square meter, it was such and such, $2,000 a square meter or whatever it may have been then. I think since maybe in the late 2010s leading to now, the amount of new products, new options, new design, new appliances, everything else that's gone from there. I remember after COVID, speaking with one of our tile suppliers, they were like, "Oh, such and such a builder's doing this for $33,000 a building square," and you'd gone back a couple of years prior, and the going rate was 14, 15, and it was like mind blowing. But I hadn't seen the plans. It could have been like on the top of Cradle Mountain. They need a helicopter to get everything up there. So I think that's where the misconception for a square meter or building square rate, it's not set in stone. There are so many variants to every project. And you mentioned, Matt, before about tiles and your selection of
Yeah, even people, they're, asking, what square meter can be a good tile? Well, what defines a good tile? Like this is part of the reason why the square meter rate talk should never be entertained ever again. Is like back in the day when they were cream brick or red brick veneer homes, 3-bed, 1 living, 2 bath, maybe, and a garage, they were all the same.
Mm.
So, the showers were the only
laminate.
area that were tiled bar the floor as well, and 300 mil above the vanity or something like that. Like, it's very easy. And back then, the selection of tiles that was available was very limited as well. So
Yeah, you want some 150 mil square white.
yeah, or subway tiles, like, they were just everywhere, or the little, 250 by 250 whites in your shower and stuff like that. Like, people didn't have the choice to be able to fluctuate the price up and down, whereas now the houses have gotten bigger, the bedrooms have gotten smaller, the bathrooms have gotten bigger. So back in the day, you remember those 1800 wide by 2.4 bathrooms that had a bath underneath the window, the vanity was squeezed up against the wall, and the shower was tucked in behind the door.
Mm.
Like there was only 2 ways of designing the bathroom.
And even the shower was just a 900 by 900
100%,
basin.
yeah.
And
Maybe a bath, it might have had the screen sitting on top of the bath and the door closes up against the hob and stuff like that. Like,
yeah,
they were very, generic, whereas nowadays you walk in, like, every single bathroom, probably even in your volume build stuff, the layout would be the same, but the design taste will be different. You've got your underfloor heating, you've got, screed beds, you've got fall to shower, grates and stuff, linear grates and stuff like that. Like, floor to ceiling tiles, it gets away really quickly. Like,
Heated shower rails, V-Lux,
yeah, yep,
vintage
hydronic heating in the slab, like, it's unbelievable to
answer
think.
for.
Mm. Even though, like, just before you touched on the variances in the building industry from 2019 to now, like, we were talking about it the other day on site, the thermal rating of a house is gonna be in the next, I reckon, 10 years, it'll just be a norm. So you'll have, the passive style home will then become just standard. you'll be sealing up the house within an inch of its life. You'll have your spacer battens in between roof battens and stuff like this. Like, it's already becoming fairly common. And then as the building code adapts all these changes, it's putting that square metre rate from one rule change to the other. It could add 20 grand to the cost of a house.
Yeah, pretty
Just as
easily.
standard,
Yeah.
like that will become standard.
Exactly. Yeah. So you look at, even back in the day, they were all tiled roofs, no sarking under them.
Yeah.
Majority of them didn't have insulation. Like, it's just, and then we're having to meet those upper requirements to get the houses up to, the star ratings that we have to meet. It's going to be quite costly, I think, in the next 10 years, with all these practices and different techniques and stuff like that. It'll get out of hand pretty quick.
And these are things that clients, most of the things they won't see, like the majority of it is.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to conform to it as practitioners in the building industry, but they don't. And it's very hard to explain the difference, because all they see is the home, like on a piece of paper. They don't understand what it takes to actually put it all together and meet the requirements that we have to. So
Yeah.
I guess we're on a slippery slope, and it's just, the building commission would know that, though, as in the people that are regulating all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's
things we have.
similar to Tassie, because we've actually just declined the NCC for 2025. We're still going to work off the 2022 one, so they've deferred it for another. I think it's until, if it doesn't go through on the 1st of July, I think we've got until July next year, 2027, before it gets reviewed again. So, and that's just a cost of living, because they don't want to put everyone off to go. So we're still 6-star here, rather than adapting like what the ACT and other states have gone to for the 7-star rating. But it is going to happen. Our biggest issue down here, because we're climate zones of 6, 7, 8. I think we're 7 where we are, but it's condensation control here, which is a whole another side story again, which is all going to add up to cost. But touching back onto the square metre rate, we spoke before about how a renovation to a new home, going from that sort of volume brick home that might have been 3-bed, 2-bath, probably about 16 squares back 20 years ago, to now everyone wants, what's the average home now? 240 square metres, something like that.
It's probably 26 plus now, I reckon.
Yeah, it's probably an interesting one when you sort of get into what those differences actually are. I mean, we know that from 70s and 80s, the homes built, like, without going back to sort of the 50s. In the 50s, the homes were a hell of a lot smaller in Australia. When we start just looking, if we just compare the 80s to now, the average home in the 80s was that 17 to 20 squares. And like, even at the moment, like, just looked it up then, the average squares on the home now is somewhere between 25 and 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you look at that sort of difference. I mean, yes, okay, Australia has quite a lot of space to be able to sort of build these homes, but the blocks of land are getting smaller.
Yeah.
With that. So putting larger homes onto smaller blocks of land, there's going to be some costs associated with that. And that doesn't fall into a square metre rate at all. How do you get that to fall into a square metre rate for every property is different? Like, I've just been chatting to somebody about their property, just in a more inner city suburb of Melbourne, and in they've just bought one of probably the last vacant blocks of land, but they're like, oh, we've got this vacant block of land. It's 480 square metres. 480 square metres, not huge. But they want to do a single-story home on it. What are we going to be looking at to be able to sort of achieve that? It's not going to be a massive single-story home. You're probably going to be looking at maximum absolute maximum size of the home is going to be that 250 square meters to be able to sort of fit it on there. So it's not going to be a huge home. And yes, okay, we can say within our previous experience, you're going to be looking at somewhere between, say, 650 and 950. And that's going to be the range of where things are going to sit. And I mean, if you break that down into square meters, that's huge.
Yeah.
When you look at the size of the homes that sort of go in there, in difference between the square meter rates from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the homes were 150 to 180 square meters total floor space. Of course, families were a little bit smaller as well, but now families are larger. It's affecting everything. People want larger homes. Everybody's comparing everything against the volume builders' costs. And okay, volume builders, you can get the square meter rate, and as Matt rightly sort of pointed out, we're not seeing the square meter rates advertised everywhere. And one of the things that's sort of coming into that is with the changes in economy, with changes within the environment for people's homes and the size of homes that they're looking to build, and the land that they're trying to get these homes onto as well, you get so many different variables, whether it is the design of the home or whether it is, okay, well, we want to put a volume builder's home on there because we've got a certain budget we've got to meet. The different facades and the different finishes and all that sort of thing that go into these homes, that changes drastically the price because, okay, one design with a volume builder might have 10 different facades options.
Yeah.
And each facade option has a drastically different cost. And so that might be one of the reasons why volume builders now might be realizing that, hey, if we put a square meter rate, we're going to be misleading the public.
I think that their old model of this is going to cost you this much is a really clever marketing system. It's never going to be the price that they can build it for.
That was their
But-
hook, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Their
their
hook to get them
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
Like any big corporate company and their marketing, there's just very clever marketing teams behind these companies. But also, I've looked at plans for a couple of volume builds in the last 12 or 18 months, and I don't know how they've still got things like one bayonet light in each room, one PowerPoint. It's like, we don't do any jobs that have bayonet lights in them, haven't done for years. Like,
Well,
it's
let's
all
see, I reckon that they're very, I'll say this without trying to can them too much, but you reckon we know that they push the extremes, but I know that when I was designing our house that I'm in right now, we had to have a certain amount of lighting per room, and that's based on the amount of volume of light that comes into your room through your windows as well. But these guys seem to get away with small windows, like they might be 15 by 15, and then a one batten light in the middle of the room, and happy days. Like,
Yeah.
I know that they can increase the luminance of the light to meet, certain standards, but you look at that versus a custom built home that has 4 downlights in that same room, you do that over, like, I think our house had 129 downlights, because I remember looking at it going, I'm gonna count these one day and try and make sure that there's 129, because I
Nearly turns out.
still don't believe that there is, but yeah, like 129 lights in a 40 square home versus, say, a volume build house that might be 25 squares, and it might have half a dozen batten holders and a few downlights in the main area, and that's it. So yeah, I reckon they do. We know that they push the boundaries with the standards and the tolerances that they're allowed to.
Yeah.
That's why the windows are small, Matt, because they're usually single glazed, and we see it down here. If you make the window smaller, it decreases your heat loss calculator,
Yeah.
so you can get away with single glaze, so it becomes cheaper.
Yeah, and they still meet the star rating. It's lovely.
The other thing I find interesting with the whole talk about square meterage rates is people think that once they've got that square meterage rate in their mind, that they can then go and make their house smaller to make it cheaper, but it's not the case. Like, it's normally the exact opposite. The smaller the house, the dearer the square meterage.
Yep.
Versus a larger house, and it stretches out because same amount of volume, or similar practice, not as much labor and not as much materials. versus a condensed area that's got the same amount of, labor content and stuff like that, and maybe a little bit less materials. But the admin side of things is very similar. The corners are very similar, and the ins and outs and all that. So, yeah, I had one recently, a builder mate of mine that gave me a plan of a house that he was quoting for a lady, and it was 3-bed. It was very small, 3-bed, 1 living, and then a single garage. And she designed the house to try and get it around that 450 grand for the whole house done. And he'd priced it up, and he goes, "I'm at 700," and he goes, "Can you have a look at it for me?" And I had a look at it, and he was very, very close to being bang on. But she had it in her mind, and that's what he said, that she tried to design something smaller in order to bring the square meterage down, or the cost down. So, and it's never the way of doing it.
Yeah. We've had inquiries like that too with bathrooms, and we have looked at prices, and there's no metric to it, because, one might have a concrete floor, one might have timber floor, one might have 10-foot ceilings, the other might have 8-foot ceilings, and so on and so forth. Sometimes you might do one, and we only work out the calculations after the fact. We don't work out our estimations off of it. And you look at one, it might be $3,500, and then the next bathroom you do, which you might miss something on as well, and so we actually haven't made as much margin off of the project. And you look at that one, it's $7,000 a square meter. So I think, like you said, even changing the size of it, it's not going to particularly go off that square meterage rate, because everything's individual.
And that's a really important point too, with costing and giving our estimates to clients, and them saying, "Oh, look, that's above the budget. Can we cut out this bit, that bit, that bit?" And you're like, well, that actually increases the rest, because there's so many variables that are added across the entire job, and we're going to have to shift those. The cover, the overheads, what it takes to keep the doors open. It's going to have to jump into another category if we're taking that one off. It's not just cut and dry. We can't just pull that bit and expect it to.
It's normally a base price, isn't it? Like this is what the chunk of it's going to be, and then you can bring it down slightly with a few changes. But like if you take floor to ceiling tiles off, you've still got to paint the wall and prep the wall. Like the plasterer's got to prep the wall better. He's also then we've got to have it painted and all this. So it's like you said, it's swapping one for another. It might be a cheaper alternative, but it's still another trade that's got to get in there and do the work. Yeah. So it really is a great conversation to have for people that are looking to do either build or reno, and just telling them to be mindful of that talk around square meter rates, because I reckon like we were saying before, another 10 years' time, I don't reckon square meter rates will be spoken about for building and renovating. The only talk you'll hear of square meter rates will be for purchase of, tiles, or purchase of plaster, or, all that sort of stuff. So.
Oh, that's been a great chat. It's another episode from Builders Beyond Borders. I hope you have a good one, and we'll catch you on the next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Builders Beyond Borders. If today's episode helped you feel more prepared, clearer, or more confident, share it with a mate who's planning their own build or reno. Got a question about building, renovating, or working with tradies? Send it our way. We might cover it in a future episode. And don't forget to hit follow or subscribe so you never miss the real stories, practical tips, and builder insights we've got coming your way. Everything shared on this podcast is based on our experiences and those of our guests. It's general info only. Any reliance on the information provided is done at your own risk.